Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party.
We're going to let it play out a little bit. All right. You know the deal. I play that as a joke. It's really not representative of what I do, but I do say fuck a lot. Welcome to the party. You know the deal. This is Nightcap, brought to you by Smash the Party. Nate Bomberger's my name. Tonight we're going to talk cancel culture, and the reason I'm talking about this, I was inspired by the conversations that I had on social media, including the big controversy that's happening with Dave Chappelle and, of course, Aaron Rodgers, John Gruber. I'm not a sports fan, so if I say their names wrong or some shit, if I say their team wrong, if I say they play baseball because they play football, fuck off, I don't care. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about that. But let me just go back to the old school method of giving you a little heads up what's coming. First, I'm going to talk cancel culture. I'm going to make it personal. I'm not a fucking celebrity, but I have a personal experience with wokeness of sorts and something that I had to change. Talk about that. Then I'm going to address Aaron Rodgers, Dave Chappelle, celebrity bullshit, cancel culture, how it affects them. And then we're going to talk about the magic word. I'm not going to tell you what the magic word is. You have to listen to the end to find out what the magic word is. But you probably know, because if you watch me before, you know I say this word all the time. That being said, before I get started, those are the three things. So cancel culture, my experience, celebrity bullshit, and then the magic word. But I said that if you tune in during this live, that I would reward you. And I honestly know for a fact that a couple times I had on the screen how many people logged in. There were 0. So I'm probably talking to thin air. But if you are on this live and you send me a message or post a comment, you can send a message to the Smashing the Party page or post a comment during this time. And all this stuff's timestamped. So don't worry about fraud. I'm not worried about it. But if you do that, I will send you the reward. The reward, you'll like it. So that's my deal. I promised you something if you check in live. If you're watching this and it's recorded, too bad, sorry. I'll probably cut this out on the YouTube version. That's my fucking shit I say. Anyway, let's get started. So, cancel culture. First of all, I'm not a celebrity, so cancel culture, according to Wikipedia, is something that it's kind of a modern form of ostracization or, exclusion, kind of virtual exile, but it pertains mostly to celebrities. And we talk about it as if it's kind of been overblown in how it's been used. It's almost as if it's been used for any time some celebrity gets critiqued, they pull this shit out. And I'll get into that in my second point. But I want to talk about wokeness and cancel culture related to me and something that affects me. It's really not cancel culture, but it's something that is related to having to change behavior and respect somebody else's opinion, even though this was ingrained in me and I loved it. And I told you that this is, I'm going to put a little disclaimer. I'm going to use some words here. I decided I'm not going to use nigger, and I'm not going to go use that word because that word is not, I didn't use that word a lot, okay? So I didn't use that word a lot. I got you, Josh. I didn't use that word a lot. So even though that word is offensive and we know that people don't like to say it, they use the N-word as a euphemism, whatever. That word is not the word I want to talk about. The word I want to talk about, and trust me, I'll weave this all together, I promise you. Hang in there. The word I want to talk about is retard, okay? And again, I told you I was going to say this word, and it's offensive, and I'm not using it, I promise you. There might be some humor here, but I'm not going to use it to grade the word. And I respect the fact that word's no longer, a du jour, whatever the French term for the word of the day is. Le du jour, some shit. So, again, you can't say that anymore. And that was a word that was personal to me, meaning I used that word religiously. And it was like, how I like to use fuck for everything, like fuck this is fucking shit. F this, fuck that. Well, retard was another word that I put into almost anything that I talked about. That's retarded. I don't like that. You're retarded. Fucking retarded. That's retarded. Retard, tard. All these things that I'm not trying. Look, that word was, I had an affinity to that word. I said it a lot. It slipped out just randomly. I mean, maybe when I was sleeping, I would say it. And it was just a word that just kind of embellished a lot of feeling, and it was attached to some emotional receptor in my brain, so that every time I said it, there was a dopamine injection. So I fucking love that word. But I know that, you know, and by the way, growing up, we had a lot of kids kind of coming and going, and foster kids that we had family, friends, and so there were a lot of folks that had intellectual challenges and so forth. So I'm very sensitive to this. I'm personally aware of the connotation of this word. So I didn't want to use it to piss you off, but I wanted to say the word, because the word is and this is my art. This is my art. I'm saying this word, and I'm trying to describe to you how this word is personal to me, and it was something that was part of my lexicon. Everything I did, I was like, you know, this is retarded bullshit, retarded, you know, and retarded wasn't a swear word, so I could throw it in there. Look, faggot was something you can watch The Office, and they say fag all the time on that and in the older episodes. You know, you don't hear words like kike or those type of things thrown out in pop culture, but you know, fag, you know, retard. These are newer words that were pulled out of the lexicon that were, you know, even on TV. You can watch shows from 5-6 years ago, and they still have these words you know used as pejoratives. And none of those shows were canceled, by the way. Okay, so none of those shows are in the cancel culture. You don't hear people talking about canceling The Office. You don't hear people talking about it. And of course, they consider that entertainment, art. And so I made this point last time that there is a freedom that artists should have to be able to use and describe things. And so I'm not going to get into the Dave Chappelle in this point, but I want to just talk about retard and why, you know, for me, I had to, you know, I still catch myself. And today I wanted to use the word because it really does feel awkward for me to use it. It's used as much as it does N-word. It took a while to get there. Like retard now stings my ears. And it's because now I know that that's somebody out there, it's sensitive. In fact, I said it accidentally on a couple lives in the beginning, and I apologized for it. And I actually got somebody that was appreciative and said, hey, look, I'm glad you apologized. That word's so cringy. And they deal with special needs folks. And so this is something that's personal to them. And so, again, empathy. Oh, I almost slipped. Well, maybe you caught the magic word. But the way I feel about that word now is related to the way other people feel about that word and what it means to their struggle. And so that's why I don't use it. So that's just kind of my personal take on wokeness and how I had to make some modifications, damn my eye, some modifications to my behavior and accept that I was wrong, and also kind of make sure that every time I did slip up, I would make sure, you know, I prostrated myself and made sure I legitimately understood the reasons and explained to why wherever it slipped out. You know, I would put out a story. Look, this is something I'm working on, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was something, it was an effort. And it wasn't perfect, and I struggled. And if I would have been a famous person, I'm sure I would have been, you know, canceled. But let's talk about that. Let's just move right into my second point here, which is talking about these actual celebrities. And by the way, when you look up, I don't know if I made this point, but the cancel culture is specifically related to celebrities and the restrictions they might have on their career. What's interesting about all this, and I'll give you that point, a factoid. It's not a factoid, it's a fact at the end of this. But let me just talk about Aaron Rodgers. What I know is he did some trash talking. He was hot mic'd and some words back and forth, and he was kind of saying something in the heat of the battle, and the fan flipped him off, and he said some shit. Okay, who cares? I mean, I don't even see that as offensive. If you watch me play soccer or if you played against me, normally I don't talk shit, but I don't really give a fuck about whatever is going on, and I'll say shit or do things, and it's the heat of the battle. You're in battle zone. That's something I understand. You might not be right, but that there was nothing wrong with it. Apparently, though, he doubled down on his expression of that and the vitriol that he got from fans, and he claimed that he was being canceled because of this. And so he said, you know, there's a certain PC culture. There's an article out there. Again, I'm not going to quote the shit. I don't, you know, this is my content. I don't feel like dealing with copyright shit, so I'm not going to show it. But I'll tell you, he was essentially saying, like, you know, well, what happened to me, which was nothing to do with cancel culture, by the way. There was nothing, I mean, maybe he was being ostracized, but it wasn't. By the way, the other part of the definition, that it's typically something that's controversial. And it's not really controversial for a player to talk shit at all. And maybe if they're hot mic, they talk shit. And maybe they talk shit to a fan. That's not weird. Punching a fan's weird, but that's not, that, you know, talking shit's not out of the ordinary. So there's no canceling of anything here. There's no risk to his career. He's getting a little criticism, and somehow he lumped it into this cancel culture, and he made this thing about wokeness, and I don't really care about it, and I like to say what I want to say. And it was kind of conflating the points, in my opinion. I know the person that passed on this article had probably said it more articulate than I am. But the point is, you know, he kind of, hey, I'm getting criticized for this shit. Oh, yeah, it's cancel culture, and people are PC, and I'm not really down with that. It was almost like he was making a political statement when he really just sort of said, you know, yeah, it was fucking hot. I fucking love winning. I was in the moment. Fan flipped me off. Probably didn't realize I was hot mic'd, and I was just going for it. But instead, he kind of went this weird way, and I'm sure I'm missing some details or some context or whatever. And maybe he was pissed about some ref bullshit. I don't know. But all I know is the article that I read, it made it seem that he was conflating cancel culture. So I'm just putting him out of the mix. Jon Gruden, again, not being canceled. He's clearly saying things in emails, and he has this, you know, there's this kind of locker room okayness with what he was doing, and he got caught. And so that's all I know on that one. I don't think that's canceled either. And he's going to be fine. By the way, I'll give that at the end. Dave Chappelle. I've already made the whole Dave Chappelle point, but a friend of mine read it, and, you know, they made this point about how they agree with Netflix and Dave Chappelle. And this person happened to be a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine. And hopefully this won't offend him. But white cis males making these statements is what I dealt with for 4 years, of people telling me that he's not racist. All fucking white people saying Trump's not racist. And it's fucking weird. It's like me saying, yo, your kid's not retarded. They're not retarded. I mean, you know, maybe you can measure that easier, but I mean, really, what is retarded? It's all subjective, right? What can he do? Can he feed himself? Fine. I mean, I could be an idiot like that and just stand my ground and say, you know what, I'm not willing to budge on retard because I like it and I don't really think it's offensive and I don't mean it that way, so I'm going to continue to stand my ground. And so Dave's point and after I thought more about it, my other problem with Dave and this comment that this person made was they're coming from the perspective of a white cis male, and you have to understand that is the least disenfranchised demographic in the world. So, I mean, the patriarchy, you've got the whiteness, you know, it's pretty much you're golden. And I'm not saying that means every white person has a golden ticket. But what I'm saying is the disenfranchisement that I'm talking about is an identity issue that they just don't get yet. And I've talked to white females, too, that say the same thing. They're like, they don't understand the first or seeing this. And it's not a bad thing. It doesn't make him a bad person. But my point is, my response to him was like, you know, it bothers me that you're taking the stand on that Dave Chappelle was right. And I'm saying he's okay to say that, but I'm not saying he doesn't need consequences, and I'm not saying Netflix doesn't need consequences. However, I have a better argument for Netflix than I do for Dave Chappelle. But both are kind of in the same umbrella. But consequences, that's not, you know, I think it was LeVar Burton that said, you know, it should be called consequence culture. And I really believe that's more of it. And the truth is, promise I'll wrap it up. The truth is, the consequences for this cancel culture that they talk about, that's typical of happening to celebrities, very rarely does it derail their career. Very rarely. Very rarely does that incident or those things derail their career. And that's one of the fact, that's a fact that I wanted to say. Like, while they talk about this cancel culture, they say they were ostracized for X amount of time. Was that the reason necessarily? And the other thing is, are they like Kathy Griffin? She was ostracized, but is she canceled? Is she fine today? Is she making income? I know she's not. I know she has cancer. Kathy, no disrespect. She's a comedian. I respect her. But I don't think that her career, I mean, she's fine. She's still living better than me, and I think she's fine. So that's the other kind of interesting point. But let me get back to this dialogue that I had with my friend. And, you know, I want to make clear that my points from that segment that I talked about Dave Chappelle, I want to make them very succinct and clear, because this is how I feel. Netflix is a portal for art. They are allowed to, once somebody agrees to put their stuff on art, if they want to, if Netflix had the rights to show pornography and they had the legal mechanism to do it, I don't care. It's a portal. And I mean that. I mean, whatever we consider art, and you can say whether pornography is art or not. I'm not saying that Netflix should go to streaming pornography, but in my opinion, they are the place where they can they shouldn't. I'd rather see them be less of a gatekeeper and be more open-minded to putting things that may stretch the bounds of what's comfortable and make, they're trying to get people to view their stuff, so I'm okay with that. Now, I know it's going to be offensive. Blazing Saddles, all these things are temporal and offensive, and I'm not saying that it's. Here's the most important part. The victims of this, the trans and the LGBTQ folks have every right to do everything they're doing. Okay? So, I'm not giving you a solid answer here. I'm saying Netflix is okay to stand their ground. The LGBT community, when they're walkouts and everything else, they have every right to do that, and I believe they should do that if that's the way they feel, and they're slighted by this. I support them, but I also support Netflix's right to say, listen, this is art, and this is gonna offend some people, and we expect there might be some riots and shit, and we try not to put things on that are gonna cause riots, obviously, but there's some things that are gonna be touchy, and this is okay, and this is a mainstream person. I don't think they necessarily should pull it off. I know that's fucked up, right? I'm talking out both sides of my mouth, but there's nuance here. And so this is the struggle. Do they put Netflix on hold? And Netflix has, like I said, if I'm Netflix, I come to the table, I would have came out of the gate right away, and I would have made a statement, and I'd have said, listen, we're in our portal. We don't agree with the perspective that he had. We disagree with it vehemently. In fact, we want to make an extra effort to do something here to show that we don't disagree. But we also believe that as our portal, if we decide when things are controversial, and they can list the examples of when they stood their ground in past for similar things, similar groups that were offended. And again, I'm not suggesting or minimizing the struggle here. What I'm saying is if I worked at Netflix and my friend was like, dude, you got to march with me, I'd be like, all right, I'll march. I march. And so, but as a consumer, I'm also saying they have the right to march, but Netflix also has the right to say we're an art portal, it's freedom of speech. And then Dave Chappelle's problem is that he's never kind of gave deference to their struggle. He essentially wove in his special, he wove an eloquent and funny "my best friend's black" joke. And so, when we always make fun of the white person when they're saying something, they're like, I'm saying something racist, and they say, well, my best friend's black. Dave Chappelle wove a more moving version of that, and I thought it was funny, and I think I give him kudos. I don't think it was his best stuff, quite frankly, and again, I'm not a student of comedy like he is. He claims to be the GOAT. I didn't think it was his best one, and I love Dave Chappelle, but I would say that his problem is more in that he's never given deference, and then he wove this story, which is people will say, well, okay, well, he had someone die, and that's horrible, and this person, it's very emotional and moving, but that still doesn't deflect from the effort. And even if this friend's on his side, we've got that black guy that might agree with him. There's black guys that are down there, and this doesn't take anything away from his friend, rest in peace. My point is that I think he could come at it with more humility and say, you know what? He made a couple jokes. For instance, the one thing that I think we might not think this is a big deal, but when he made the joke about how the person peed beside him, I'm sure that's a fucking very emotional and traumatic thing for somebody that's dealing with this identity, this dysmorphia or whatever, not dysmorphia, but this realizing that they're not in the right body, and they have to then do this act where they have to decide, and he's making a whole joke about he'd rather see him do this way and how uncomfortable. To me, I would be offended if I had to go through this, and these are the things that I'm dealing with, but we don't have, we can kind of say, I laugh at that and say, it's funny, but because we don't have to have that struggle. We don't know what that psychology of every single moment of every day, thinking that this genitalia that's attached to me isn't mine or whatever, or these breasts aren't mine, or I don't feel myself, or I want to do these things, and this is a struggle, and then you have people minimizing kind of a core thing because you're uncomfortable. And what the fuck? You don't got to look over at somebody. Who cares how they pee? I thought it was kind of crass, honestly, and that's why I said there was a couple times where I was obviously looking for the jokes that were offensive, but I laughed at a lot of things, and I laughed at some of the jokes maybe I shouldn't have, but there were also, it wasn't his best stuff. I'm just saying, it wasn't his best fucking stuff. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. So Dave Chappelle has every right to do it. He also has every right to bear the consequences of it. So, I mean, consequences are going to happen. You know, we can just talk about, all right, well, good. They have the right to protest and they have the right to stand their ground. And Dave Chappelle, come at it with a little fucking humility. Don't weave a fucking wild ass, you know, emotional tale about my best friend's a trans when we make fun of white people when they do that shit. So, you know, again, I didn't come at it with as much criticism on Dave Chappelle in my last item, but I think it's worth noting that's a perspective that I could easily see taking on. And I think that when I see somebody post that coming from a very a demographic that's never been in this on the ballot, it definitely triggers me because, you know, I have privilege as well. I talk about it all the time, but I definitely understand the struggle of kind of this identity and looking around and not being represented. You know, I was the only guy in many of my schools. I was the only fucking guy in many corporate meetings, you know, so that's a thing. But anyway, so how am I doing on time? 10 minutes. By the way, I'm going to have to get better at this because I'm going to have to cut it down to like 25 to make sure I got people that I can, you know, that'll sponsor me. You're fucking going to sponsor me. I know you want to. I know you got money in your pocket and you're like, fuck it, I got to do it. Anyway, listen. So I started out with cancel culture. The word I used, the R word, I had to give that up. I had to, you know, make peace with it. I just broke it down and kind of went into the Dave Chappelle thing. Gave you a little, look, Aaron Rodgers, no, don't conflate it. Cancel culture is supposedly when your career gets derailed. Your career is not derailed. And most of the time, these people that talk about cancel culture, you know, what is it, 8 times out of 10, and nothing bad happens to them anyway. So it's just more of, you know, them deflecting away from the criticism. And here's the point I was thinking about today. I don't worry about getting canceled for saying something stupid. And I think the reason I'm not worried about cancel culture or wokeness is because I just have empathy for other people. And if I make a mistake and say something that's offensive, and I'm not tied to that emotionally, it doesn't identify me. So I'm not going to like lay down my life for my words and be like, oh, I said that shit and fuck it, I meant it. Yeah, you know what? I said it. I was mean. I was mad. I said this. I didn't think about this aspect of it, or I didn't think about this. And so guess what? I'm sorry. And you know what? That's something I'm going to have to work on because, I mean, that's how you fucking apologize. You come back and you say, here's what I did wrong. And so I'm not worried. I know I'm going to probably have to apologize, and it's going to be weird, you know, when my family members want to talk to me about the show, and or if I ever have to watch the show with one of them and I'm just dropping F-bombs and sexual references, that'll be weird. But what I feel about myself and why I'm not worried about getting canceled in that manner is because I'm fucking flawed, first of all. So whatever pedestal you have me on, I'm fucking flawed as fuck. You see a little bit of me. You don't see the rest. There's some fucking shit that's amazing that you don't see about me, but I'm flawed. And I admit it. And I'm not scared to fucking admit it, but I'm also looking for ways to improve. And so, you know, the other day I asked my wife, I often ask her, like, is this something that I perceive about myself? Is this accurate, or am I missing something? Because it's the worst thing when you think you are something, or you think you're something and you don't have the right perception, and everyone else sees what you don't see. And that's happened to me many, many fucking times in my life. So it's something that also helps me improve because I start to see things the way other people see it. It can also cause a little bit of fucking weird validation, which I've had to kind of deal with. But the point is, there's empathy. There's empathy for other people. And I'm not worried about saying something because I truly don't want to fuck with somebody. I do want to fuck with people in power. And I don't have a problem coming at somebody that's in power that's punching down, as Dave Chappelle likes to say, punching down. So in that respect, I may not use the same level of respect that I do. But if you see me in person, you know, somebody made the comment to me, it was in my inbox. They're like, you know, I watched your show and you're real brash and you come across pretty harsh, but I know you and you're softy and you're nice. Look, I am a softy. This is me emoting about the anger. It doesn't mean I want to kill people or do shit, but I don't have any fear of, you know, I guess I would say that I was always the person that could talk my way out of a fight. Now I've gotten some fights, so I'm not a pussy and all that shit, but I don't want to be, I'm not trying to, you know, portray masculinity either. But my point is, like, I'm okay to be sensitive. I'm okay to be soft, but I'm also not afraid to be courageous and bold when other people might be like, fuck, dude, we should just shut up. That's typically where I'm a Viking, is where, you know, everyone else just wants to shut up. And I'm like, wait a second, that's fucked up. That's fucked up. Nah, I can't do that. You know, and that was the reason why when I was at UPS, I got in trouble a lot because management would make decisions. I'm like, no, and they would have to take my radio. But I fucking killed it there. I killed it. Most of the time I was right. No fucking bullshit. That's not my quote. That's somebody else's quote. But anyway, so, the thing about why I don't have fear, and I think what's a weakness in Dave Chappelle, Aaron Rodgers, Gruber, any of these, or John Gruber, Gruder, whatever. Any of these guys, I think anytime you get caught up in cancel culture, I think if you don't have that humility and don't have the ability to kind of step back and say, you know what? Yeah, I can fall back. I'm not tied to that. I made a mistake. What the fuck is so big? Why is that so weird? We never saw Trump make a mistake. Not everyone. Look, narcissism isn't fucking cool, people. It's lame. You can control narcissists very easily. They're manipulated. They may manipulate people, but once you are on the other side of a narcissist, you can play them. And so that's not cool anymore, just to not be empathetic and just be like, all right, well, it doesn't matter. Let's just go for me. But apparently, that's what happens when people kind of they make a mistake and then they go, well, I've got to defend myself because this is who I am and I built this whole image. And I get it. I get that. But I'll tell you right now, it makes really good sense to just kind of fall on the sword. You're going to be fine. If I'm a celebrity and somehow I get canceled, and I'm sure, now with these words put out there, someone will fucking try to cancel me. But trust me, I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. I am fucking flawed, okay? If you open up the curtain, there's a lot of fucking skeletons back there. Some of them are still fucking kicking. So there you go. Have fun doing some opposition research. Get a fucking team. You're fucking going to be loaded. I don't care. That doesn't identify. That's not part of who I am anymore. And it doesn't matter what I did in the past. It doesn't matter what I did yesterday. Because what I'm doing here on is who I am and what I'm going to be. And so people are going to fucking still put me in some box. People still look at me for weird things that I used to do back in the day. And someday I'll talk more about that. But you guys aren't paying enough yet to hear my whole story. I don't want to put these guys on camera, so they didn't sponsor me. But anyway, listen, I'm going to wrap. I want to just sum up what I was trying to come at it today and just sum up my major points. Cancel culture, is it real? It's real, but it doesn't really happen, and it's really just a temporal criticism that they deal with, and how they handle that fuck up, whatever it is really the length of it and also the severity. So, and the severity is actually minimal in my opinion, because based off of what I've read on cancel culture, most of these folks still have a career and they still do fine for themselves. They don't lose their houses and tip like that. There are temporal disadvantages, but they're still better off than you and me. That's number one. Number two, I talked about the three celebrities, Gruden. I don't even know his deal really, but these guys need to understand humility and they need to put themselves in the shoes of other people and just fucking drop it. Who cares? I know, and Dave, again, he's allowed to stick to his art, but I truly think you could make better jokes about with LGBTQ folks that would be maybe offensive, but maybe wouldn't go into the heart of their identity. And maybe that's what he finds funny, and maybe other people do, but I also relate with their crisis and why that's traumatic for them. And so, again, I'm going to fucking play libertarian on this one. Very rare moment where you're going to see me play Pontius Pilate and stand on the fence. But on this one, I support LGBTQ. I also support Netflix's right to process it. Dave Chappelle's the one that needs to improve. As I said in my very fucking first point, Dave needs to do better. Boom. All right. Last thing I want to talk about is empathy. I'm not worried about being canceled because, quite frankly, I have a lot of empathy. I am a fucking asshole and I don't take shit. But I also understand that sometimes I'm going to say shit that's going to piss people off, and I'm not afraid to apologize. I really am not. It's their words. If you mean them, they can change the dynamic of a relationship. So it's a fucking powerful thing to apologize. It's a powerful thing to fall on the sword. And I will tell you, I wasn't always like that. I remember several times in my youth where, I was in management at a mortgage company. I remember I had a boss who was phenomenal at training me in sales and so forth. And I was a fucking phenomenal salesperson, by the way. Anyway, he trained me in his shoes. He was the man. And he used to always tell me, I'd get in these squawks, I don't like to be wrong. And so I'd come in his office like, dude, I'm right here. He's like, I know you're right. You're right. I know you're right. But this is an opportunity for you to fall on the sword. And I'm telling you, you're going to win that customer. And so, that was like a really painful thing to me because if you watch me on this show, I love to be right. And I like to stand by truth because I don't have to fucking backtrack and there's no lies and bullshit. And I can always fucking come back to knowing what I said was real and true because I'm not bullshitting. It's fantastically freeing, by the way. If you're dealing with living in a lie, just fucking be honest about shit. It's fucking fantastic. Anyway, yeah, I've been honest. So empathy is important. And then I want to talk about, just real quick before I close, you guys have been phenomenal. I don't think I missed a point. Did I drop it? I don't think I did. You guys have been phenomenal. I got some more support. It's been great. I'm going to be off next week. I'm going to do a Flashback Friday video tomorrow. And that way you get to see some old shit of when I have a beard and stuff. I'm going with the clean look right now just because, you know, I'm on these younger platforms. And I don't want them to know how old I am yet because I don't want to drop the fucking wisdom beard yet. But I'm going to be off next week. I'm not going to be off. My goal is that I will have the platform updated. I will put out at least 2 blog posts next week because I've been really slacking on that. And you'll see me on TikTok and Snapchat. Not my favorite tools. They're a little frenetic. I'm dealing with them right now. There's a lot of fucking notifications. If you turn your notifications on, Snapchat will tell you every time someone types to you. And these things are a little crazy. But that's where the young people are at. If we're going to fucking make change, we got to make sure that some of the ideas that I have that are good, I think they're good, and you guys can vet them, and you can tell we're going to find out whether people like them. But I think we need to I would like to get in front of those folks because I need their energy to carry some of these things that are going to take a while to get people to understand that we can have a better way of thinking about things if we kind of start with a better model of what do we want? What is our baseline? Our baseline is everyone has Maslow's hierarchy of needs and yada, yada. I'll go into that stuff later on because I don't want to go too far over 11. But listen, this has been Nightcap. You guys have been fantastic. We did it. I want to say we did it because you guys kind of carried me through this. I wanted to do 4 weeks of Nightcap. You know, I took a little sabbatical there. I was kind of off and on. I struggled with getting into cadence. We fucking put out 16 shows, and I'm fucking super happy about it. I would call this season 1 of Nightcap, and when I package it up and put it on YouTube, that's what it's going to be. So this is the finale of season 1. It was better than last year, and I think it's going to be better next year, but I want to say thank you guys to everyone that's been supportive. I get so much shit in my inbox, especially the fact that the last 2 days I've seen people share, like, and kind of interact with some of the posts that I have that I know that, you know, I knew they were watching in the background, but to see them kind of put their finger down and say like or click or share something, I know it's a lot. And some folks can't do that, and I don't expect everyone to do it. But if you do, if you do have the opportunity to share, like, or follow or comment on something, it certainly helps the engagement. And the whole point of this platform is to get this voice louder. You guys can hold me accountable to this to make sure that we fucking make sure that people can thrive in this country. No MAGA bullshit. I want people to thrive. I am putting stuff on Snapchat and TikTok now. It's lame shit. It's stuff I'm playing around with the platform. I'm excited, though, because a lot of folks, today I had somebody tell me that has quite a following on a platform that they think my stuff would do good on their platform. And this wasn't a salesperson. This was someone that reached out to me that was a follower. And they have some experience with another podcast, and they were just kind of really blowing me up. So it was really, really one of those weeks where I got a lot of very positive input. Obviously, I always get the negative input, but I want to say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is season 1 of Nightcap. You guys have been great. We'll be back in a week, and maybe I'll call this season 1A. I don't know. Maybe season 1 is good, and then we'll just call season 2. Maybe I'll do 3 seasons a year. What do you think of that schedule? 4 weeks on, 1 week off, 4 weeks on, 1 week off, 4 weeks on, 1 week off till the next year. Boom. I don't know, something. Whatever. This is the dream. Thanks for helping me make it a reality, because as the last little pointer I'll give you guys is that I gained 1,000 followers in about a week and a half. So that's fantastic. Delilah didn't gain that many followers in that short of a time, and she was a cute pug and not an asshole fucking angry black man. So I think I'm doing pretty good. Obviously, I greased the wheels with a little bit of finances, but I'm still very happy with those numbers, and you guys helped me get there. So I'll cut it short. I'll see you in a week. If you see me out and I see you in one of my fucking insignia or symbols, I swear on my life, I will buy you a coffee or a beer, and I will be touring the city this week doing shit. So thanks again. I'll see you guys in a week. We want to do a transition? Yeah, we do.